Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Podcasters of Horror. And this is episode 8. With you, as always, is me, your lovely host, Super Marcey. And I am joined by the one and only, the terrible Australian, Bede Jermyn. Hello, Bede.
Hello, Marcey. How are you?
Doing well in lockdown. How about yourself?
Doing pretty well. Since the recording of the last podcast that we did together, which funnily enough was the previous episode of Podcasters of Horror, I have finally moved into my new place. Yeah. And yeah, it's sort of slow. I'm just sort of going through it at the moment, sort of slowly cleaning it up and putting everything where it needs to be. Still a bit of work to do, and plus, like I said in the previous episode, it won't really sort of be properly done until my brother comes down to visit from interstate, so he can bring his stuff and also add his 2 bits to the place as well, because we're going to put up not only put all of his stuff in, we're going to put in some shelving and some new furniture and all that. So but that probably won't be for a while yet, due to the lockdown and all. But and also the borders being closed. But hopefully by the time those are all done, he can come down and we can get that all organised.
Yeah, hopefully, things improve, I suppose.
Yes.
We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, we're managing to get a bit of podcasting done while we're in lockdown, so a bit of a silver lining at least, there's that.
Oh yeah, we've got, and since we got like 1 billion podcasts at the moment, in terms of we've got 2 current shows at the moment, and we've also got 2 new podcasts that we've got coming up very soon, which we won't we won't tell our listeners what they are yet, because they're a bit of a surprise, but we're both very excited for them.
Yes, so we are going to be busy in podcasting land, which is always good. And I always enjoy doing an episode of Podcasters of Horror, and saying it's episode 8 already, it's pretty crazy to just think about.
Indeed. I mean, we've already passed the first season of Masters of Horror, and now we're straight into season 2, or I guess the second and final season. But I'm excited just to talk about a lot of these episodes with you, because I know most of these episodes you haven't seen compared to the first one, so I'm excited to hear your thoughts on them.
Should be interesting to discuss these episodes, which is always awesome. But it's really cool. We're 8 episodes deep, and once we wrap up Masters of Horror, we will still continue Podcasters of Horror, as we will be diving into the season of Fear itself, which I guess was the unofficial sequel to this. And we also have a horror anthology to watch after that. And we will still keep it going, because there are many, many things we have in the pipeline to continue this podcast. So it's very awesome.
Indeed.
Yeah. So we'll get straight on to episode 2 of season 2, called Family.
Can I help you?
I'm David Fuller. This is my wife, Celia.
Hi.
Harold Thompson. You need a hand with those?
If you sure it's no bother.
No bother at all. Sarah, honey, you're sitting too close to the television.
When is Grandpa gonna get here?
Oh, just another day or 2.
Daddy, I'm scared.
You can't accept that it's fate that Celia and I are meant for each other.
She'll never love you.
She will!
directed by John Landis, written by Brent Hanley. The synopsis, as I'm reading on Wikipedia: family tells the story of a young couple who move to a new city, but their new neighbor is not what he seems, but neither are they. This episode stars George Wendt, Meredith Monroe, and Matt Keeslar.
Yep. But I'm kind of curious to hear what your thoughts on this one, Marcey, because I think as we talked about a few episodes back on Podcasters of Horror, you weren't the biggest fan of John Landis's episode for season 1, which was Dear Woman. Mm-hmm. But I've always said that family, I always felt, was, I think, an improvement over that episode. And I wonder, do you feel the same way as well?
Oh, this does a complete 180 from Dear Woman. Yeah, if you want to hear what we had to say about that, you can go check out an earlier episode of the podcast. I think I made my thoughts on that very, very clear. And to say, knowing that this was directed by John Landis, I was like, do I really want to watch it? But I am glad that I did, because this one actually feels like, I guess, that he cared, that there was a really good script, a very intriguing storyline. And this is one of the episodes that was not adapted from a short story. This was an original one. And as you pointed out several times, it is from the writer of Frailty.
Indeed. And and I think for me, Frailty was probably one of the best, if not one of the most underrated horror films of the 2000s. Mm-hmm. And Brent Hanley's script for that was just fantastic. And I remember when this episode was coming out and it was announced that he wrote this episode, I was absolutely excited to see what he would do with this. And I have to say, like, watching the episode then, and as well as watching it again in prep for this podcast, like, that's his script for this episode just doesn't miss a beat. It is, in my opinion, definitely one of the strongest and best written scripts of the whole series. And what I love about it is it does a good job at sort of setting up the characters and the story. Like, it is a pretty weird story when you come down to it, and we'll talk about all the sort of the weird aspects of it. But Brett Hanley does such a good job of developing his characters, and then as the story unfolds, he knows how to sort of bring some interesting kind of plot twists and turns that you just don't see coming. And also, when you watch the episode for the first time and pleasantly surprised about where it goes, like when you rewatch the episode again, you can see that he did such a great job at sort of hinting at where the story was going to go very early on in the episode when you rewatch it. And it's just sort of like even rewatching this episode again, like, you can see all the clues and everything that lead to where the episode ends on its major big plot twist. But when you watch it the first time, you're just completely unaware of it.
Definitely. I had no idea where it was heading, and obviously, I mean, this is a show that aired in 2006, and as we say, there's gonna be spoilers, so you've been warned. So basically we're in, like, regular suburbia, and George Wendt plays Harold, and we meet Harold under interesting circumstances, and we soon find out that Harold is, I guess you'd say he is a serial killer. However, he kills people that kind of fit what he sees as what he wants his family to be. So when he kills them, he basically gets the body down to the skeletons, and then he makes up the skeletons and dresses them and pretty much talks to them as if they were his family or real people. And he kind of hallucinates those things, which we see from that point of view. It is a very, very weird premise, and I think it is one of the more unique episodes in the series so far. This is something, I guess we don't really see this kind of thing at least too much just in film in general. So I think that's why it still feels like it's really fresh. And it seemed like John Landis had a really, really good script. So you could see there was a lot of, thought and precision behind this one. And I guess has a bit more love than the other episode. And yeah, so Harold gets 2 new neighbours who are a married couple, which was Meredith Monroe, which is Andy from Dawson's Creek, and Matt Keeslar. And I guess they sort of befriend him. And there's obviously a secret that this couple has. And as Harold gets closer, he wants to add Celia to his family, and this is where things kind of get a bit crazy.
Indeed, and I do agree with you, like, that sort of comparing, like, Landis's work on this compared to Dear Woman, it is complete night and day. Like, I wasn't as harsh on Dear Woman as you were, but even then I always felt like he was kind of phoning it in a little bit with his direction of Dear Woman. Like, there was times where it seemed like he was on, but other times he just seemed really off. But when you sort of watch his work here, like, you could, like you say, you can definitely tell that he's far more engaged with the material of this one. And, like, every shot, every performance, and just the way how every scene is thought out, you can definitely tell he had a lot of care for the material and was just found it far more compelling. And I also love the sort of the visual style of the film because it's so bright and colourful as well, kind of showing off that sort of idyllic kind of suburban life. And when you sort of go into, and it's done, like, the beginning is kind of done in this sort of almost kind of one take kind of shot where you kind of go through Harold's life and you see it's like a lovely home, with beautiful furniture and all that. And then once we sort of go down to the basement and him using acid to melt a body, that's when the sort of the dark elements of the dark aspect of the story comes in. And the episode does and Landis does such a great job with having those two tones, like that sort of bright colorful tone with the sort of the darkness as well. And also the humor here is very funny, and there's a lot of really funny moments. A lot of it is very dark humor, but it just works, particularly when you have the scenes with Harold talking to his family, which from his point of view, as you say, they're, we see from his point of view that they are real people and they're played by actors. And like the conversations he has with them, particularly with the one who's meant to be his wife, and sort of the fights they have because she starts to get jealous that she realizes she's going to be replaced by Cecilia. Yeah,
it is really well done and interesting, and it's sorry, but it's like a little bit of a delve into his kind of psyche in a way. Which was really interesting. Like, it is played out really, really well, and I think it just hits the right kind of what's the right word? It just hits the right tone.
Yeah.
Like, it really does. It's not over the over the top, ridiculous or anything. It really does work.
And also, like you say, Matt Keeslar, who I sort of remember as playing the character of Tom Prince in Scream 3, the sort of the arsehole actor of that movie. And also Meredith Monroe, who I always loved on Dawson's Creek, because Andy was one of my favourite characters on that show. So it was cool.
Same.
So it was cool to see her in this episode, and they make a really likeable and believable couple. And like I said, the script really does a good job, because you know that there's something going on between the two, and for a while you're not sure what that is, but then it's sort of like, I guess, is revealed like they want to have a baby, but that you find out that they recently lost a daughter previously. And you don't really think about that much, but then once you get to the end, you find out that there's a reason why both of them are there, and that is because, like, she's a reporter and he's a doctor. So they were actually hunting him down because he was the one who Harold was the one who kidnapped and killed their daughter. But the thing is, they don't know what happened to their daughter. So when they sort of discover her skeleton, it's sort of a very heartbreaking moment to them, and then in the final moments they decide to basically, like, you know, you've given us so much pain, I think it's only fair that we repay that pain back to you. So they basically decide to torture him.
Yep.
Which is, well, I think it's also really good because it kind of, I guess, shows like how far people are willing to go. Like, once somebody's been taken away from you, someone that you love dearly, how far are you willing to go? Because even Matt Cleese's character, he's unsure for a while whether he wants to do this or not. But then after a while, he sort of comes around to it, and you can tell that they're taking a lot of joy from torturing Harold, because they don't want to kill him right away. They want to sort of torture him, and so much, even to the point where they even one of the last lines of the film, David, Matt Cleese's character, says, "Oh, I think I can keep him alive for another couple of days or a few weeks."
Yeah, he pretty much says like, "Oh, I think I can do it for another like 10 to 14 days," and you're like, "Frickin' hell!" And
it sort of ends on that final shot of Harold's eyes going, "No,
oh shit!"
And in a way, you kind of like empathize with Harold in that moment, but at the same time, you only just a tad. But then you realize, well, he did murder their daughter and murdered a bunch of people, so you can't feel too sorry for him.
Yeah.
But it sort of like shows just how like Brett Hanley as a writer really sort of brings that twist out of nowhere. Because I remember watching this episode with you, and you were asking me like so every now and again, like, where is this going? And then I knew what the twist was going to be, and I didn't want to spoil it for you. And then when it happened, you were like actually genuinely surprised.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
And it's kind of a shame that Brett Hanley, since this episode, and also Frailsy, he hasn't really written much since then, which is a shame, because I think he is, between this and Frail, a pretty damn good writer, and he knows how to make a twist that is both makes sense within the story, and he knows how to set it up as well. So it's not like it just comes out of nowhere and doesn't make sense. Like you said, if you watch the episode, when you watch the episode again, or at least every time I watch the episode, you can definitely see the setups along the way to that twist.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to rewatch it now that I've seen it and know.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But yeah, also the soundtrack is good, because there's sort of a lot of gospel music that's played throughout the movie.
It definitely has an interesting soundtrack with the music.
Yeah, and I guess it's meant to sort of contrast, like, sort of the horror that's happening throughout the whole movie as well.
I think it also kind of, at least for me, it adds more to that innocence of suburbia. Because it is, very sort of upbeat kind of gospel music.
Yep.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a really great episode. Definitely, like, compared to Dear Woman, definitely a far superior episode for John Landis. And like I said, I think it's just probably one of the, at least on a script level, it's definitely one of the best written ones as well.
And I have to say, it was definitely interesting seeing George Wendt in this kind of role, because I'm probably just used to seeing him in Cheers.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think that was, like, a brilliant piece of casting right there, because, like you say, we know him as, for his role on Cheers, and, for John Landis to cast him as a serial killer is definitely, against type, of course. And it also kind of shows off, like, sort of like with Harold, like, even though we know he's a serial killer, but I guess if anyone who didn't know that aspect, you would just see him as a normal, friendly guy who's just, who just lives by himself and is always cheery all the time. So it's a good, like I said, contrast with having those two sides of the character, and he plays it off really well. Yeah,
he's really, really good. He does both aspects, like, really, really well. Very, very impressive. So, Bede, what is your rating out of 5 for Family?
I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. Like, I think, like I said, it's one of the strongest written episodes of the series, and it's just really strong all around in terms of direction, performances. This is what I could easily see, because we always talk about, like, with a lot of the episodes, like, could this work as a feature-length film? And I could see this work as a feature-length film, and I think that's and in that way, maybe that's probably why I can't give it any higher than a 4, because there are some aspects I think they could have delved into a little bit more. But overall, I think even just in 1 hour, the episode does a great job at sort of developing everything.
Yeah, definitely.
And what about yourself, Marcey? What do you give your rating for this episode?
I am giving it the same score as you, 4 out of 5.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty much the same reasons. Like, I think it's really well written, it's well directed, it's well acted, it comes together nicely. There's maybe just a few little bits and pieces that could have been improved upon, but nothing major. And I agree, this could work as a feature-length film because there's definitely some aspects you could flesh out a bit more. Not necessarily that you need to know, say, why Harold does what he does, but perhaps more in regards to how he functions just in society and how he's been unnoticed, and maybe, a bit more development with the couple, but still saving that shocking twist for the end.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, that wraps up our discussion on family. Moving right along. The next episode is episode 3 of season 2. It is called The V Word.
I thought we were supposed to be doing something special tonight.
You ever seen a dead guy?
Nope.
You want to?
It's like straight out of Vengeance of Doom. Damn, it's dark in here.
Dead people don't need light. Hear that? Music. Maybe, you should come back another time.
Maker, come on! Justin, let me in, man. I'm sorry, but I'm so hungry.
You gotta help me! You can't kill him! He's already dead!
I sure hope we stop someplace soon. I'm getting kind of hungry.
Yeah, me too.
It was directed by Ernest Dickerson. It was written by Mick Garris, so this marks another episode that is not based on a short story or anything. And the plot synopsis for this one, thanks to Wikipedia, this vampire film reveals the punishment visited upon 2 teenage boys who make the very poor decision to break into a mortuary and encounter a real vampire. The V Word stars Branden, Nadon?
Probably Nadon, I guess.
Arjay Smith and Michael Ironside. So, yeah, I think Ernest Dickerson, this was his first entry for Masters of Horror.
Yep,
He was not on season 1.
Yeah, he was one of the new directors that they round up for this season of the show.
Yeah, so this episode, as I said, it's another one that is not based on anything. And it starts off where the 2 teenage boys, Kerry, who is played by Arjay Smith, and Justin, played by Branden Nadon, they're just sitting around, they're bored, they're just playing games, blah, blah, blah. Justin just seems to be really pissed off with his dad because he lives with his mum and his little sister.
While his dad sort of is with another woman. So.
Yeah, his dad's getting serious with his secretary. So Justin's upset with his dad. And so they're bored, and he's like, well, let's just show everyone how manly we are. Let's go into this old mortuary. My cousin works there. We can go see this kid at school who died. So that's basically it. And they get to the funeral home. There's a lot of strange things occurring, a lot of really bad decisions. You kind of just sit there like, oh my god, why are you doing this? This is so dumb. But that kind of quickly, I guess, goes away as the episode goes on. They come across a very strange looking man who is played by Michael Ironside, who happens to be a vampire, which, as you pointed out, is a word they don't say in the movie, and it is called the V word.
Indeed.
But yeah, he attacks them and he bites into Kerry's neck, and Justin leaves. So one of them is a vampire, but that's not for long, because then Justin gets turned into one. And this kind of goes through, I guess, them turning into vampires, feeling the thirst for blood, and how each, I guess, guy handles it. And yeah, I guess Michael Ironside's vampire, who's called Mr. Cheney, not nudge nudge wink wink, is still around. So yeah, that's a really bad plot summary.
But it covers a lot of the episodes, so
yeah, just trying to get I guess explain it as best I can, because there is kind of a lot going on in this episode, I guess, compared to the previous one. But yeah, I would say the V word is a slow burn kind of vampire story, and it, takes some elements and some, I guess, feels atmosphere, whatever you want to say, from other vampire horror movies, but I guess just some horror in general. And it it tells a bit of a different story. The vampire aspect itself is fairly different to the standard stuff. So it ended up being, while it didn't get off, I guess, to the best start, it actually ended up being a really interesting and intriguing episode with a very downbeat kind of ending. What did you think?
I've always liked the V word. Like, when I first watched this, I really enjoyed it a lot, and I still do on this recent rewatch. What I always really liked about this episode, like, out of all the episodes for the series, this one, I would say, definitely feels like it goes out of its way to feel like an 80s horror film. And the premise is a really good one as well. Like, two teenage boys break into a mortuary and find a real vampire. Like, that's a really cool idea for a film. And I think I would say for most part the episode does really well with that premise. Like I said, it does have its flaws. Like, there are a lot of bad decisions by the main characters in the beginning as they're walking around the mortuary, and there are some bit of logic gaps as well. And also some of the dialogue can be a bit weak at times, but I think it makes up for it by just being a really sort of interesting story about the friendship between these two guys, and it also has a lot of fun with it as well. And it's also not shy from being pretty dark as well. Like, the gore is really gruesome, and I also love the sort of, like you say, the homages and references to past horror films, not just vampire films. Like, like on a TV you see like the Bela Lugosi Dracula's playing, and also even like Nosferatu gets referenced with the hand going across the wall, and like the shadow of the hand going across the wall, and like even like other films get references as well, like Halloween, when Kerry sort of stands up behind Justin at one point. Also, when Justin turns around and sees Kerry in his final vampire form, it kind of feels resentment of that shot from the music video of Michael Jackson's Thriller music video, when the girl turns around and sees him as a zombie. So there is a lot of loving homages throughout this whole episode, and even a bit of Near Dark as well, because not only is in that film the word vampire is never uttered, but the vampires in this film don't have fangs, so the only way they can bite their victims is they literally have to rip open their throat or slice open their throat to actually feed on them.
Yeah. So it definitely takes bits and pieces and just makes it its own thing, and it does really work. It tells an interesting story. And it gives you something, a little bit different, or something you haven't really seen too much of with vampire movies. Or vampire lore, however you want to say it, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think Ernest Dickerson, who we should add was the director of, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, and Bones, and as well as, directing a lot of episodes of The Walking Dead. And he also used to be Spike Lee's cinematographer earlier in his career because he shot... Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X. So visually the episode looks great, and I love when the first half, because when they're actually walking around the mortuary, it is so atmospheric and dark. It does have this sort of creepy, eerie feeling to it, as it should when you're walking through a mortuary in the middle of the night. But also there's some really interesting stylistic choices as well with the cinematography, and when... Justin is sort of being tormented into being a vampire. You can hear voices, and there's also these quick subliminal flashes of corpses and all that, and also his point of view, it's sort of this orange kind of hazy look he sees from his point of view, I guess what kind of indicate his hunger.
Yeah.
But there are some silly moments as well. I don't know how, because at one point, Kerry comes into Justin's house, falls on the floor and leaves blood everywhere. But when Justin's mum comes back, she's thinks it's all some kind of soda or something and not blood. I don't know how you can...
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can tell the difference if something is blood or soda if it's on your carpet. But
yeah.
But also the episode kind of really goes out of its way to paint Justin's dad as this kind of dangerous, evil guy, but other than sort of, leaving his family to go date his secretary, we never really see anything that indicates of how even more of a bad guy he is. I suppose if it was a longer episode, they could probably dive into a few more aspects as well, but overall, I think it's a really fun episode. It kind of in a way reminded me a little bit of, at least in terms of fun, Pick Me Up, because we said on that episode when we talked about it, it was definitely one of the more fun episodes of season 1, and I would definitely put the V Word alongside that as well. Maybe, but I mean, it is a bit more slower pace.
Yeah.
But I feel like the 80s vibe that Ernest Dickerson gives the episode really kind of makes it a fun watch. And also, it's got a synth score as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's how do I explain it? It is, a different episode. Yeah, there are some hokey, silly moments and stuff in it, and the beginning just is a bit silly as well. But it is an interesting watch, and especially as it progresses.
Yeah.
And it works really, really well. So, yeah, for me, it's successful, what it set out to do. It's an entertaining episode, and it is a bit of a different, I guess, look and feel with something to do with vampires. It's not really what you'd expect, especially with how it starts.
Yeah.
Vampires are probably the last thing on your mind when you're watching it.
Yeah, I think even...
You think maybe it could be more like a zombie, but then you soon quickly, I guess, realize what it actually is.
Oh, yeah.
So that definitely adds something to it as well. And, yeah, I think Michael Ironside is fantastic, as he usually is.
Oh, yeah,
in his role.
Oh, yeah, his performance is... you can tell he's having a ball playing this character. But there's a lot of interesting, creepy things that I completely forgot about in this episode. And I think these are... for example, not only is he a vampire that... an evil vampire, but, the... Justin and Carrie actually knew who he was before he became a vampire, because he used to be a teacher at their school, and apparently he was a bit of a pedophile as well, by luring teenage boys back to his home and did things to him, and even had a lot of photos and videos on his computer. But it never explains, like, what happened to him to become a vampire. Like, it's kind of hinted at, but it's never really explained. But I think, in a way, that's a good thing. Because, I mean, when you see him... Because it also shows that not only these vampire... You know, when you turn into a vampire, like, any injury that you sustain prior, like if you had a massive neck wound or any other cuts or bruises, like, they still stay there on your body. Because, like, Kerry and Justin have still got their neck wounds on them. And when you see Mr. Chaney, which is an obvious reference to Lon Chaney, the actor, he's definitely looks like a bit of a corpse, like he's been rotten for a while. So I guess you can get, like, maybe a hint of what may have happened to him before he became a vampire. But yeah, it's just those creepy aspects that that the script provides to him that just makes him not just like that make him even more creepy as a character. But there was also one aspect that you noticed that I never even thought of before until this rewatch that actually made it even more kind of disturbing as well.
What was that? Because I suddenly don't remember.
I was you were saying like he with Kerry, like he pretty much like Kerry, like Mr. Chaney takes Kerry under his wing and he makes Kerry do all of his bidding by getting Justin and also getting his little sister played by Jordell Furland, who was the little girl in Silent Hill. Like he basically becomes Mr. Chaney's slave and does his bidding. So that was kind of an interesting thing that you pointed out when we were watching the episode together.
Yes, because Kerry is played by an African-American actor, and obviously Michael Ironside is white. And Mick Garris is a white man and he wrote the script, but Ernest Dickerson is African-American, so all these things combined, I think there was some kind of hints or something to say in there in regards to race. Yeah,
like a bit of subtext to it as well.
Yeah,
which I think really actually makes it more interesting as well, because I never even thought about that. This is like the second time in the past two episodes of Masters of Horror, you pointed out subtext in an episode that I did not notice before.
Yeah, I kind of do that. I mean, I could be reading too much into it, but it just seemed a bit too on the nose.
Yeah.
To just not be anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's a really fun episode, and as we sort of said after when we watched it together, like, this is one episode that you and I definitely could see become a feature-length as well.
Yeah, this one would work. Definitely, because as you said, there's stuff they could easily add in to, I guess, expand the story a bit more. So there's a lot of room to actually add in a bit more. So I think that would work. It would be really interesting, and I think it'd definitely be something that you could do today.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I think add another sort of 20-30 minutes to it and sort of fix up some of the problems and flaws that we had with the episode and maybe dive into some aspects a little bit more, and it could easily be a solid feature-length film. And I would totally be down for anyone out there to do a feature-length version of this story.
Yeah, and I think you could even play around with the characters a bit. You could make the boys a bit younger. I said something like 14-ish, 13, 14-ish would work pretty well. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I could be completely and utterly wrong, and so if anyone out there can confirm or not confirm what I'm about to say, please do so, because I'm sort of remembering, because I don't know whether I read this somewhere or maybe I'd listened to the audio commentary, because I think the original script, the characters were meant to be younger, but they decided to age them up.
Oh, okay.
But I could be completely wrong, and maybe they were just meant to be 17-year-olds the entire time, but I think even just watching this episode, like, these could easily be, like, younger characters. Especially, like, them breaking into a mortuary and that, because that's something more like young teenagers would do rather than, say, nearly 18-year-olds.
Yeah, it seems more like something someone younger is going to do. So, that's something where, yeah, you could definitely buy into that. Originally, they're meant to be younger as well. Yeah, so what would you give this one out of 5?
I give it a solid 3.5 out of 5. Like, I think it's a really fun episode, and definitely one I would be down for 110% if it was remade into a feature-length one. And yeah. I think it's just really well. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's a fun one. It's got atmosphere. It's got good old bit of creepiness to it, and the performances are solid. Like, yeah, some aspects of the script are a bit flawed, but I think all the other aspects make up for it. And it does at least a pretty good job with its really cool premise.
Definitely.
And what about you, Marcey?
Once again, I'm giving it the exact same score as you.
Awesome.
3.5 out of 5. Definitely agree, as we just discussed. This would be cool as a feature-length film, but it's an interesting film. I like that it, as I've said, I like that it covers vampires a little bit differently, but it still pays homage to other vampire stories, other films, and it does have that cool 80s vibe to it. But yeah, it's a really interesting and entertaining episode, and I like that it was more of a slow burn as well, and that, you know, kind of the third act comes together, I think, pretty nicely as well.
And it's also the best commercial for Doom 3 ever.
Yes, there is a bit of Doom 3 going on in there. And I think I said, oh, geez, are they playing like a Doom ripoff? Because I didn't think they'd actually use Doom on the thing, but nope, they were.
Well, I'm actually surprised they were able to get footage from the Bela Lugosi Dracula for this episode. Because, I mean, a lot of these episodes, from what I remember, was somewhere between $2 to $5 million. So they must have spent a bit of money just to get that clip for this movie.
Yeah, I don't know what the copyrights and stuff is on it, or what deals they would have made, but yeah, they did. So, yeah.
Oh, and I forgot one other thing. I'm just sort of looking on the IMDb page now. Even, not just references and homages we talked about, even just lines from other movies. Like, I think one of the last lines that Kerry says in the episode is like, "I don't drink wine," you know, from Dracula, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And of course, they're coming to get you, Barbara.
Because, you know, you can't have a horror movie or anything without saying that line in it.
Yeah, apparently. But yeah, the episodes 2 and 3 for season 2 of Masters of Horror come highly recommended from us both, and it says a lot because we gave them exactly the same ratings each.
I know, it's very rare when that happens.
Yeah, a bit of a coincidence, but we just happened to feel the same way about it. Yeah. So that wraps up this episode of Podcasters of Horror, and as always, please check out the series Masters of Horror.
I guess for our listeners, if they want to watch the show, because I always keep forgetting where people can watch this show. If you live in Australia, you can watch it on Stan, because both seasons are on there. But if you live in the US or Canada, you can actually watch the show on Tubi.
Mm-hmm.
So you can check out, if you're all of our listeners who do want to check out the show, you just go to either of those two places.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of which, you can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/SM_supernetwork. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/supermarcey. You can find Bede on Twitter at twitter.com/BedeJermyn. You can join the Super Network Facebook page at www.facebook.com/thesupernetwork. You can join us at the Super Network Facebook group. Just look up the Super Network Facebook group on Facebook. You can direct all your hate mail, if you have any, just address it to Bede at the supernetworksm@gmail.com.
No.
You can subscribe to us on many platforms, including iTunes, Stitcher, Castbox, and Spotify. And that is it from me. I had one more thing I want to say. You can find my personal, freelance writers page on Facebook under Marcella Papandrea Freelance Writer, and you can find my page for artwork under the Art of MP, and I'm also on Twitter and Instagram under that moniker. And Bede, where else can people find you?
If people want to find me, they can find all my writings, of course, at supermarcey.com with reviews and columns, particularly Bad Movie Tweetathon, which, as I just checked out this today, in our recent poll, it looks like Body of Evidence starring Madonna is the winner. Mm-hmm. Which is was a very close race because it was very neck and neck there between that and another film towards the end, but I know you'll be happy about it that it actually won. But also, I haven't done any reviews much lately because, well, it's a bit hard to review anything when there's nothing out at the moment or we can't go to the cinema to watch stuff. But I'll definitely get back into it very soon. In some way, and also but you can find all my reviews and columns there at the site, and also you can also check out my column Horror Down Under also over at the screencast.com, and I'll be working on some new ones very soon, so keep a lookout for those. Also, you can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/bjermyn, or my Facebook writers page at facebook.com/terrible Aussie, and also we can't forget we also have a Patreon as well.
Yes, you can join us on Patreon.
Indeed, as low as $1 a month, you can get some pretty cool access to all of our content, including early access to our podcasts, either 24 hours or 48 hours before they drop, and also the more you pledge, you can send us topics for future episodes of Super Podcasts, or even become a guest on the podcast, or even get some pretty cool, awesome artwork from you, Marcey.
That is correct.
And of course, if the more patrons we get, if we get at least 10 Patreons, I did say that I promised to do a video, Patreon exclusive video, where I will wear my Nicolas Cage tracksuit and I will read Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven in my best Nicolas Cage impression.
That is true. So we definitely need those Patreon subscriptions, and we have tiers as low as $1.
Indeed.
So there's no skills, it's just $1.
Just $1, or if you
need a dollar is what I need. Sorry.
Exactly.
I just felt like saying that, you know.
Alrighty. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it.
That is it. That is the end of the episode.
Indeed, and we'll be back with episode 9 of Podcasters of Horror very soon, which we'll talk about Brad Anderson's Sounds Like and John Carpenter's Pro-Life.
Yeah, 2 very interesting episodes that we'll get to discuss. I'm excited for the next episode. Keep your ears and eyes peeled because we will have lots more content coming soon, and it's all very exciting.
And we'll see. I'm glad all of our listeners enjoyed this episode of the show, and we'll see you all later.
Catch you later, guys.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.